Chapter 1, Black Dot. Black Seed Archetype of Humanity. Black Dot is an ancient symbol for blackness. It is the black seed of all humanity, archetype of humanity, the hidden doorway to the collective unconsciousness, darkness, the shadow, primeval ocean, chaos, the womb, doorway of life. This ancient symbol for blackness was the subject of intense scientific investigation over a period of 300,000 years by profound ancient scientists who were themselves black in consciousness. A long line of highly intelligent scientists studied their own essence and discovered a hidden doorway to their souls and spirits, a doorway to advanced laws and rhythms that span the universe. They discovered universal laws rooted in the black seed, feeding every dimension of time and space. These original titans found that all life came from a black seed. All life was rooted in blackness, and all things possessed a memory of their collective ancestors. Blackness, the universal solvent of all, was seen as the one reality from which life's loom spun. All colors, all vibratory energies were but a shade of black. Black was the color of the night sky, primeval ocean, outer space, birthplace and womb of the planets, stars, and galaxies of the universe. Black holes were found at the center of our own galaxy and countless other galaxies. Black was the color of carbon, the key atom found in all living matter. Carbon atoms linked together to form black melanin, the first chemical that could capture light and reproduce itself. The chemical key to life and the brain itself was found to be centered around black neuromelanin. Inner vision, intuition, creative genius, and spiritual illumination were all found to be dependent upon pineal gland blood, born chemical messengers that controlled skin color and opened the hidden door to the darkness of the collective unconscious mind, allowing the ancient pre-scientists to visualize knowledge from the mind's timeless collective unconscious memory banks. Indeed, Black Dot was found to be the hidden doorway to universal knowledge of the past, present, and future. Presently, Black people are awakening from the spell of mental slavery, ignorance of self, and an inability to spiritually focus the mind. Black people have learned that a major key to shattering the chains of mental slavery is to know one's own history. When one knows the true fullness of the ancestors' achievements, then that person will believe that they can do the same today. When one knows what the ancestors did to develop themselves in order to make such great advances, then they will know how to do the same today. For the ancestor and today's Black person is literally the same person: king, queen, architect, physician, teacher, artist, competitor, merchant, jurist, and military giant. In knowing one's history, one can expand the mind through the illusion of time and space, unite with ancient Black priests, scientists, ancestors, and utilize the same timeless and universal ideas to produce the same greatness. Today's reborn Black mental masters can focus the mind by embracing their historical Blackness, developing a deep knowledge of one's Black ancestry, and thereby becoming fluent in the translation of ancient images that appear in today's world. As a result, dreams and visions of the great but seemingly impossible will be brought into reality rather than ignored, just talked about or partially developed. No longer will one submit to an "I can't do" attitude, but one of "I will do. I will make this life perfectly beautiful, and I won't stop until it is that way. I will be my true self." Also, as men and women of today again stand on the threshold of the Blackness of outer space, they are forced to an awareness of the Blackness of inner space. The advanced laws of nature required for understanding outer space and the experience of space travel will bring up many collective unconscious memories. If poorly understood, will create illusions of grandeur, illusions of persecution, false barriers between brothers, sisters, and deadly relationships between nature and humanity.
Certainly a racist or sexist person who is by definition both egocentric and ethnocentric, crazily attempting to conquer nature, at war with the universe, will be overwhelmed by the infinite blackness of outer space and inner space. These people would rather destroy the world than find the black dot hidden doorway that allows one to become one with nature, in rhythm with the universe, by using the accumulated wisdom and being of harmony with one's ancestors contained within the body slash mind slash soul slash spirit. Thus, reborn Black people carry upon their shoulders the salvation of humanity, the revitalization of a human family that is lost, unable to find the hidden doorway to a spiritual harmonic unity with nature. The black dot is the hidden doorway of life, which again is the doorway through which a reborn, now dead, asleep people must pass.
The black dot on defined blackness, as symbolized by the black dot, is the seed of humanity, the archetype of humanity, the black hidden doorway of historical unity with one's ancestors. Webster's dictionary defines seed as the source, origin, or beginning of anything, the part of a flowering plant that contains the embryo and will develop into a new plant if sown and fertilized and developed into ovule, new seeds. Archetype is defined as the original model from which all other things of the same kind are made. Thus, archetype and seed are synonymous, both referring to the origin, the basic model of humanity upon which the race is patterned. Archetype means seed and is one of the ancient African names for seed. Archetype is composed of two main words, archi and type. Type is defined as a person, thing, or event that represents or symbolizes another, especially another that is to come. The general form, structure, plan, style, characterizing or distinguishing member of a class or group. Arch is defined as main chief principle, a curved structure used as support over an open space as in a doorway. The human type's distinguishing characteristics is the mind, the ability to think, the ability to profit from history, from the accumulated experiences and wisdom of one's ancestors' collective unconscious. Thus, Black Dot is the seed archetype, a main doorway through which collective unconscious ideas pass as they become conscious. C.G. Lung took the term archetype from the Corpus Hermeticum, Scott Hermetica, Vol I, 140, 12b, and from Chap. 2, par. 6 of the De Divinis Nominibus of Dioisius, the pseudo-Areopagite, which reads, "But someone may say that the seal is not the same and entire in all its impressions. The seal, however, is not the cause of this, for it imparts itself wholly and alike in each case, but the difference in the participants make the impressions unlike, although the archetype is one, whole and the same." Jacobi, 1971. Jung was drawn to the term archetype most of all by the writings of the African scholar St. Augustine, who was a student of the ancient African university. St. Augustine's idea principles for the principal ideas are certain forms of stable and unchangeable reasons of things, themselves not formed, and so continuing eternal and always after the same manner, which are contained in the divine understanding. And though they themselves do not perish, yet after their pattern, everything is said to be formed that is able to come into being and to perish. But it is affirmed that the soul is not able to behold them, save it be the rational soul. Jacobi, 1973. Black was used extensively by ancient Africans to represent a host of concepts, all of them having in common the idea of seed and doorway to the collective unconscious mind, including the Egyptian hieroglyph for the Egyptian god Ra, the sun, or Horus risen. Budge, 1969, Church Ward, 1978. The result of the synthesis of the male principles, logical left brain, and female principles, emotional right brain. The Africans' Great Lakes Holy Land, Kui Land, birthplace of humanity and home of the TWA people, King, 1978. North Pole Star and 7 glorious ones of the Pleiades system. Star at the summit of the cone, the all-seeing eye of Horus, Church Ward, 1978. representative of the godlike powers of inner vision developed in the highest grade of the African University Sons of Light, James, 1976. All Black structures are used with the same symbolic meaning of hidden doorway to the collective unconscious. For instance, the black stone of the Kaaba of Mecca, black stone of Pessinus, stolen from Hannibal's city of Carthage to Rome in the last Punic War, all black pyramidion, the black capstone usually found at the apex of pyramids, which were themselves symbolic of the mind, Ptah, and the hill that arose from chaos, conscious awareness doorway to the collective unconscious. The internal structures of the Great Pyramids of Khufu being symbolic of the all-black worlds of Amenta. Massey, 1973, Churchward, 1978. The uppermost chamber of the Great Pyramid, the King's Chamber, is an all-black room, again symbolizing inner vision, the all-seeing Eye of Horus, black dot doorway to the collective. Unconscious King, 1979, Yohanan, 1980. Concerning the black cubit, Kamel Oshman Galit Pasha wrote in the Nilometric Cubit, the Bulletin de la Société Royale de Géographique, Vol. 21, 1943. The black cubit of ancient Egypt was of unknown origin. This cubit was carved on the socle of the black granite colossus to the east of the entrance leading from the court of Ramses to the great colonnade and is found only on black stones or on what corresponds to their symbol. Its measured length is 54 centimeters. Rashwala de Lubix, 1977, recently remeasured the black cubit and found its mathematical length to be 54, 0.2376 semblance, humanity's ancestral blackness, the black seed. The basic model upon which humanity is patterned is clearly an African model as proven by the abundance of archaeological records that report humanoid remains in Africa of 12 million years old, including human footprints that have been found in Ethiopia, preserved in volcanic ash flows, whereas no skeletal remains older than 2 million years have been found outside of Africa. The oldest reported finding was in China, where a more than 1 million-year-old human skeleton named Homo erectus, also called Peking man, was discovered. In the Great Lakes region of Africa, numerous human skeletal remains have been found that are in excess of 6 million years old, and in Chad, 5 million years old. It is believed that so-called modem man Homo sapiens evolved from Homo erectus more than 2 million years ago, which in turn evolved from Homo habilis, which descended from the early primate Ramapith erectus. Albert Churchward, 1978, suggests that Homo erectus is actually the so-called pygmy or the TWA people, and that all humanity are children of the African TWA people. Thus, the vast majority of humanity's time on Earth, many millions of years, was spent in a Black African context. Frican ancestral Blackness. The human family is a Black family, a Black race millions of years old that originated in Africa. According to African historian Dr. Ben Jokhanan, the ancient Egyptians clearly defined their African origin in the papyrus of Hunefer. We came from the beginning of the Nile, where God Hapi dwells, at the foothills of the mountain of the moon. Dr. Ben Yochanan's interpretation of this ancient record, the Mountain of the Moon, identifies Kenda's Kilimanjaro, a Kenya-based Key Swahili word created by the indigenous Africans, and or Uganda's Rwenzori Mountain. The Egyptians originated from Africa, south of the Sahara. Recent diggings in Oceanic are very recent children of their Black African parents, the Anu TWA people. All humanity started in Africa and then migrated to the different corners of the globe, changing in superficial aspects as a result of different climatic sunlight exposure conditions. All humanity has a vast Black origin, Black dot, in Black Northeast Africa. Clearly, European Africans must not forget Europe's first historian, Herodotus, who said that the Egyptians, Colchians, Nubians, and Ethiopians have thick lips, broad nose, and woolly hair and are burnt of skin. Johannan, 1971. Concerning the relationship of changes in skin color to changes in the sunlight as the result of migrations to Europe and cold glacial cycles, Bernard Campbell cites in his book, Humankind Emerging. It seems likely that Australopithecus and early tropical Homo erectus as well had been quite dark skinned. In equatorial Africa, dark color is an advantage. Overexposure to the ultraviolet rays of the tropical sun is harmful to skin, and many experts feel that as the hominid skin became less hairy and more exposed, the melanocytes, cells that produce the skin darkening pigment melanin, compensated by producing extra pigment to block the ultraviolet rays. The presence of a screen of pigment inhibits the photosynthesis of vitamin D in the skin. When people settled permanently in regions with less sunlight, they did not get enough vitamin D. In this case, pigment was no longer a protection, but a drawback. The problem was exacerbated by the onset of cold. The well fitted hides worn against the cold decreased the amount of sunlight that could fall upon the skin. A degree of pigmentation that could further the contribution of vitamin D to the body's chemistry was better for survival, so lighter skin evolved. In this way, can account for the evolution of the blonde northerner, white European African. Today, we know that man is unable to obtain the vitamin from any terrestrial foods, either vegetable or animal, but that fish oils contain vitamin D and fish can be eaten as a substitute for exposure to sunlight. Furthermore, we have learned that a deficiency of the vitamin causes the bone bending disease named rickets. We find many skeletons of Neanderthals, human forms that evolved from Homo erectus. TWA people, and especially children having rickets, showing direct evidence of a deficiency of vitamin D. It is equally surprising that among the Cro Magnon people who succeeded Neanderthals in these icy regions and whom we know to have had fishing tackle, the incidence of rickets is greatly reduced. The importance of sunlight to the survival of early Homo sapiens in northern lands and the limitations that it placed on his expansion cannot be exaggerated. Thus, numerous European Neanderthals' skeletal findings of rickets are critical physical evidence that the first people in Europe were black skinned. These Africans developed bone deformations in the minimum sunlight ice age because their dark skin reduced the amount of vitamin D produced in skin, thereby reducing calcium levels for bone growth. As African people migrated to different parts of the world, they used the stars of the sky to guide them to their travels. Over a period of many thousands of years and multiple exoduses from Africa, careful scientific observations of the North Pole star were repeatedly used as a very important direction finder. Also, changes in the North Pole star were noticed to coincide with gravitationally induced changes in the Earth's geological cycles, floods, earthquakes, and in weather cycles, glacier cold spells, and tropical warm spells. During periods of glacial conditions, the northern continents were literally frozen, and African people who survived in such climates over thousands of years changed in skin color from black skin to white skin due to the relationship of reduced sunlight, skin melanin, vitamin D, and dietary calcium. Thus, the eye on the mount, or the black dot, or point within the center of the circle, was the earliest law in heaven, the judge, all seeing eye that governed major changes in humanity, geological change, African exoduses, worldwide human migrations, weather cycles, and human physiological changes. Black dot, the eye of the mount representing the North Pole star direction finder, was known as Anup or Horus in Egypt, Siddiq in Phoenicia, Anu in Babylonia, Taiyi in China, Avathar or Zivo in Mesopotamia, Amenofoko Tachikami in Japan, and various other names in different parts of the world. Just as there are written and geological records of humanity's past, there are biological and mental records of humanity's origin. The collective is that part of the human mind which contains the mental records of one's ancestors and is that body of knowledge developed by our ancestors and accumulated over millions of years. The libraries of our minds are infinite and contain the wisdom of all man's past, present, and even the future unity of universal knowledge, universal life. The hallmark of humanity was the mind. The mind stored the ability to think, to observe, measure, theorize, and thereby communicate with nature. The mind was indeed the reservoir of millions of years of African experience in science, medicine, art, religion, architecture, military psychology, culture, and magic, all forming the collective unconscious core upon which all humanity was patterned. Thus, there is only one race of humanity on this planet Earth, the black race, with many shades of black, from black to black white. All members of the human family may have various shades of skin color, but they are all rooted in blackness. The critical question then is how to relate to one's blackness. Needless to say, there are a variety of examples of how people relate to their historical blackness. Some examples include racism, mental slavery, outright denial of blackness, avoidance of Black ancestry, and a general fear of being overwhelmed by Blackness. Most people today are lost because they continue to avoid their historical Black selves. All people must answer the complex question of Blackness for themselves, but certainly Black people today, the victims of centuries of racism, must uplift themselves to fully understand that racist people, those who reject their own Blackness, will not find the hidden doorway or black dot. Therefore, they will remain lost and extremely dangerous. In Science African philosophy of Blackness, the Memphite theology, according to African historian George G.M. James, is inscribed on a stone now kept in the British Museum. It contains the philosophical views of the Egyptians from the pre-dynastic period before 4000 BC in part 1. Precreation is represented as follows: the primate of the gods. Ptah conceived in his heart everything that exists, and by his utterance created them all. He is first to emerge from the primeval waters of none in the form of a primeval hill. Closely following the hill, the god Adam also emerges from the waters and sits upon Ptah. There remains in the waters four pair of male and female gods, Nun and Nunet, the primeval waters and the counter heaven. 2, Ha and Hawet, the boundless and its opposite. 3, Cook and Cowcat darkness. 4, Amun and Maune, the hidden and its opposite. Memphite theology contained 10 principles, 4 pairs of opposite principles, together with 2 other gods. Ptah representing mind, thought, and creative utterance, while Adam joins himself to Ptah and acts as demiurge and executes the work of creation. This critical account reveals that Africans discovered the concept of Adam thousands of years before Europe. Additionally, Africans first defined the concept of minds or psychology and what is today known as the four powers: strong nuclear forces, weak nuclear forces, electromagnetism, and gravity. However, it was Ptah, or the mind, that was the primate, first chief main god that arose out of the primeval waters of chaos, collective unconscious. Ancient Egyptians built pyramids as a symbolic image of the hill Ptah rising out of the primeval waters of earth. The capstone of the pyramid, the pyramidion, was usually an all black granite obsidian stone. Then, too, in the case of the uppermost king's chamber of the Great Pyramid of Khufu at Gizeh, is a room in which all four walls, ceilings, and floors are black granite stone in color. Thus, the god Ptah is pictured as black in color. Ptah, being defined as the primate of gods, again signifies how the mind is the chief link to the primeval ocean, chaos, and collective unconscious. The fact that the apex of the hill was black again shows how ancient Africans considered blackness to be the primate or main doorway to the collective unconscious. Knowledge of Black ancestral history provided the access to and the translation of the collective unconscious memory banks. The internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Khufu was symbolic of the all Black underworld of Amenta, the all Black doorway to the collective unconscious. Passage through Amenta, or the development of Blackness, produced an expansion of consciousness, inner vision, spiritual consciousness, illumination, unity with nature, an activated pineal gland, creative genius, and godlike powers attained by man on earth, or the functional development of the extrasensory powers. Gerald Massey has recorded the entrance to the Great Pyramid was concealed by means of a movable flagstone that turned on a pivot which none but the initiated could detect. It was known as the door or the stone that revolved when the magical word or open sesame is spoken. Thus, Horus was the door in the darkness, blackness, the way here no entrance was seen, the life portrayed for the mains in death, the first door of 12 in the passage of Amenta. These 12 are described in the book The Coming Forth by Day, Book of the Dead. The 12 divisions correspond to the 12 hours of darkness during the nocturnal journey of the sun. The first division has no visible door or entrance. The rest have open doors, and the 12th has double doors. It is hard to enter, but made easy for the exit into the land of eternal life. Here is the mystery: how to enter where there is no door and the way is all unknown. It is explained to the mains how divine assistance is to be obtained. When the strains of life on earth are effaced, strength is given for forging the entrance where there is no door, and in that power, the mains penetrates with or as the God. How to conceptualize the black dot today? How can one become aware of the black dot, the doorway to the collective unconscious? Clearly, one must study deeply African history, and one must know and utilize the 10 virtues and 7 liberal arts that are defined in George G.M. Lame's Stolen Legacy. Where do we start? We start by developing our character and becoming focused on our own development. Literally, one becomes capable of using feelings to extract knowledge from the collective ancestral memory banks. For as defined in the Memphite theology, Ptah, the mind, conceived in his heart feelings. The feelings, intuitional, emotional tones are key tools that must be developed to grasp the ideas in the collective unconscious world of chaos and pass it through the black dot doorway over into the world of conscious awareness. When the strains of life are effaced, one develops the strength to open the hidden black doorway to find the needed knowledge to solve seemingly impossible tasks, to develop perfection, and to fulfill our highest creative dreams. It was through the use of the 10 virtues, negative confessions, and 7 liberal arts that the heart was developed and character strengthened. Certainly, it is the lack of character among many Black people today that produces so much disunity, petty personality conflicts, and excessive paranoia among Black people, poorly tuned and unpredictable emotional flashes. A strong heart will yield a strong character and emotional balance. Thus, let's consider the daily use of the 10 virtues, the first two being I, control of thought, and two, control of action emotion. Ask yourself the next time you feel emotional about something, does the feeling make logical sense? Ask questions in order to gather knowledge of both sides of the issue. Know your emotional blind spots and tendencies to distort reality. Virtues 1 and 2 combined are defined as justice. Feel deeply, listen to your heart, balance feelings with logic, logic with feelings. Reality must both make sense logically and feel right emotionally. Black dot is an ancient African symbol for blackness, the black seed of all humanity. Black dot is the hidden doorway to the collective unconscious mind, the ancestral memory bank for all. The use of the collective unconscious as the hallmark is the distinguishing attribute of humanity. Present day humanity comes from the Black African race developed over a period of many millions of years. Black dot represents the origin of all humanity. All Africans, Europeans, Latinos, and Asians came from the same black womb of the black woman fertilized by the black seeds of the black man. The Ancestral Memory Bank, Collective Unconscious, is a collection of African experience and wisdom there by requiring a profound grasp of African history and a Black approach for the efficient translation of ancient African images in today's world. Humanity may differ in outer appearance with variations of colors, but internally, they are all Black, all African at the core. The question for all humans is how to relate to this Blackness. A transformation process requires first the right heart or feelings and profound African knowledge as taught in ancient African universities. Today's racist is afraid, ignorant of his/her Blackness, choosing to run from the ancestral Black core. Today's reborn Black masters will accept their Blackness, become unified with the universe, and be inspired to creative genius at levels that are in a harmonic continuum with the pyramids. Uraeus is the symbol of the transforming energy for the soul. Black dot defines the hidden doorway to the collective unconscious. Primeval waters, universal forces that nourishes all life forms, and the hidden doorway through which the transforming soul energy of Uraeus passes.